The buck stops here. Your top 5 issues coming out of the weekend. What are you opening with?
I've got to say, I'm starting to feel a little bit of heat with this because it's become bigger than I anticipated early, Gaz.
The buck stops?
Yeah. I've put a little bit more work into it. So
look at Kingsway, people pulling over.
They're stopping now. Now, number one, the Hawks' performance over Port can take them anywhere. I really believe that when you've got a young group and you've gone through a pre-season now and they've played against an opponent who have been a top 4 side for the large part of the last sort of 5 or 6 years. So to go over there, no one to expect them to win and then to perform the way they did and to get that result, which was so consolidated, those young blokes will believe in the system and will find out exactly how good they can be right now. There's still plenty of upside, but that performance can take them everywhere.
Let me just take that a little step further before you go to 2. So is that the coaches or the coach and the coaching staff telling them over and over summer, this is what you're capable of, this is where we're at, this is what we could do, and then you need some reinforcement? Is that where you're getting at? Is that the reinforcement that a pre-season needs?
Yeah, see, we talk about it being belief, but I reckon it's nearly faith because it's belief without evidence. Like Hawthorn had no evidence, even their pre-season stuff.
That's
the 2 games leading up. So whatever it is, it's just getting the mix right. It's throwing things around. It's everything coming together. Like it might be Mitch Lewis in front of the ball taking clunks, and then all of a sudden his halfbacks have a little bit more belief in this and that, and then you go forward a little bit more. Or CJ didn't play a lot of footy in the pre-season. Maybe his intercept marking ends up adding to the mix, but you're consistently trying to tinker with things and move them around. And when you've got young players and you find that thread, now they can chase it. They can chase it with a real conviction because they know that when they do it well, they're going to be in games.
So and we'll get on to the next one, and you can join in 1300 736 736. People talk about the nourishment of victory. Like you can sell everything, you can do this, and with the wins and losses aren't everything, but you do need to be nourished at some stage, and they would appear to have early nourishment.
Well, to be 2-0, and obviously the North Melbourne game was a grind, and they were able to get over the line, but they played much better football the week after, and now they've got a chance to really sort of frank that form.
Yep.
So they go into the next 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. Now they don't have to win every game. They don't even need to, they could get knocked over by a better side, but they've got a chance to really screw down their game plan and the way they want to go about it, and for those young blokes to pull even more confidence out
Carlton
of
this week will be great.
Exactly. Yeah, what a game that's going to be. Number 2, Coolers over Taggers. We've already had this chat over the last couple of weeks.
I'm having it again.
Yeah, but I think tagging is not the word to use. We had a situation, Essendon v Brisbane, and Merritt was on fire, and Berry went to him, and Chris Fagan had this to say.
I think the other thing that changed the tide of the game a little bit was that Zach Merritt had his own ball in the first quarter, and he was kicking it really well inside 50 to targets in there. So Jared Berry was given the role about 5 minutes into the second quarter, and I think it'll be fair to say he did a terrific job.
Fags himself saw that as a significant shift in the momentum, because a player had heated up and he was prepared to sacrifice one of his boys to do some, to spend some time.
I was doing the game. There was even bigger shift in momentum.
Yep.
This bloke called Lachie Neale went crazy for the first time.
And he had as far as AFL ratings are concerned, he had a career game. That was his best statistically. As far as the AFL ratings are concerned, his best game.
A surprise to Essendon, given he's been 3.5 or 2.5 best on grounds in the last 3 times they've played. So now that'll be 4 times they've played, and he's been best on ground 3.5 times. Why, Nathan? Why? Given you've just played against Geelong, and you've had Patrick Dangerfield rip the whole thing to shreds as well. You know that Zach Merritt is going to be so critical to the outcome of this. Lachie Neale, because you've seen it. It's played out in front of you, and he's left to his own devices. I watched it there. I was at the ground. I watched it. He was just wandering around.
So what I would say is, was there a player assigned to it? Was there a? You don't know that.
Well, if he was, he wouldn't do a very good job.
And that happens sometimes. And the other thing is that the players that we're talking about calling or tagging, they are elite players
Who
The
are?
guy I'm about to go to, a number 3,
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
think he's untaggable.
Okay, just forget before we. I don't want to get off this because Essendon fans I spoke to and rang got good Essendon fans that we know and predicted that this would happen before the game started.
Yep.
I'll tell you what will happen. This will happen here. He will get there, and that bloke will win the game for him.
Yep.
And it happened.
Yep. It does happen.
Well, do something about it.
It does happen, Gaz. And yes, you do need to do something about it. And coaching staff aren't perfect, and they might prioritise other areas and think. But we're saying that is the difference in the game. Lachie Neale, are often the best player in an opposition, can be the difference in a game. But there's a whole heap of things that need to go right for you to put your best players in that position. I'm not saying that it's wrong or right. I'm actually saying here that you do need a cooler. You need someone in your 22 who has the capacity to lock down and change the momentum of a game when the opposition best player has taken it away.
What about this as a radical?
Because I don't think
sounding
dedicating 4 quarters of a midfielder to another opponent is the way to go.
Is it possible that that's flawed thinking?
It is. Yes, it is possible.
Given that Lachie Neale's ripped you a newie for the last 3 games, would it be a radical ploy to go, right, we're going to sit on him from the first second to the last. We're not going to give him a minute's notice, rest, and if he still beats us, then so be it. We're going to try something because the other way ain't working.
One of the realities of midfield, you don't get beaten by what you know, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
One of the realities of this situation is that the hardest players to tag are the midfielders in deep midfields. Because if you go to one guy, like say you see Petrarca, Oliver, I mean, Viney's going to run with rather than be run with. You've got real depth in that midfield.
Callum Mills went to Dangerfield. Dangerfield rips Essendon and Newey. Callum Mills goes to Dangerfield Friday night.
And had 29 touches. It's actually a really good role to play. I think if you run with one of the opposition's best players, it's a really good role to play. Callers over taggers, though, you don't want to lose the offensive drive from one of your midfielders.
I'm looking at you with this sort of...
I know, you're cynical. I can see it. All right, number 3, Paddy Cripps. He's ready to go to another level again. I mean, his first 2 rounds are amazing. He's clearly in great shape. I don't think he can be tagged. And I think the Carlton midfield is deep enough now that we will find that he'll get callers go to, he'll get taggers go to him, but I feel like he's virtually untaggable. He's bigger than everyone. He wins contested ball already.
Yeah.
What he does in games to have an influence happens in the middle of packs of 8 or 9 or 10. There was one stage there where he was tackled and collared, and he was able to get a handball out. So that was when he had his when he had that head contest with or clash with Charlie Curnow.
Yeah.
But he was
awesome.
You could have
It was
someone sit
awesome
on
to
him
watch.
and he'd just carry him on his back and then still do what he does.
It was crazy good. In fact, that was back on Thursday, so it seems a long time ago. I haven't had that much of a chance to chat about it. I was blown away with what Sam Walsh did in his first game.
There you go.
Blown away.
So who do you tag? That's the thing. And Matty Kennedy's averaging over 30, and then Hewitt's averaging over 30.
And I was blown away with another player who I thought was even, or no, I won't say more important, as important. I'll give it to you after you finish your
little one on Paddy Cripps, pick 13, 2013. On an iTable, Matty Rendell said, "Oh my God, they've stuffed that one up. That bloke can't run." So,
Bang.
but he's come on, hasn't he? And this is what great players do, though, because they just keep improving their game.
This is the other reason. I mean, clubs, should they tell us the nature of injuries for players and how restricted they are, given what he's been through for 2 years and how he's been heavily criticised? For those that criticised him, and I would have criticised him at times, bad luck. When you go out on the field and the club says, no, he's fine to play, then you open yourself to an assessment.
Absolutely you
so
do.
Should clubs then be more honest?
Well, potentially, but you can only assess what you see.
That's right.
One. That doesn't mean you've got all the information. Two.
No, but you can only assess.
But you're also, no one could ever judge or negatively his character. He's always been someone who has given
Tried
everything.
his heart
And
out.
so it's a professional judgment, and often it's around performance.
Yep.
Number 4, you need to know when to support a player and when to set a standard and let them go. And we had calls for Jack Higgins to be dropped after round 1. And it's fair to say that his coach was happy with what he saw.
He got some feedback during the week, and he was, I think, our best pressure player in our front half. And the reward came with the goal scoring, and that soccer off the ground, and just the way he went about it. I thought he worked really hard all day.
What an unbelievably good performance, and Max King just went nuts. And Jack Higgins was great, so it was wonderful to see. So that's the view from inside the camp.
And outside the camp, there were a few that wanted him out.
If I'm Brett Ratten, I'm using that as an opportunity to set a standard from round 1. So I'd give him a spell this week. It's an opportunity for everyone to have an education. So I would educate Jack, and I would give him a spell this week, and it would be a message to the rest of the team that we're not going to accept that level of selfishness in the team.
If you're going to shift standards, you've got to make a statement. Higgins shouldn't play this week. And people say that's way too harsh. But you've got to do something that shakes the fabric of the place at the moment.
The reality is somewhere in between, Gas, because only the coaching staff and the St Kilda Footy Club internally know exactly what the circumstances were, what his expectations are, and where they hope to go.
Yep.
It is really easy from the outside in, and we will all have opinions on this. And just because Jack Higgins has played well in round 2, mind you, doesn't mean it's the right decision.
To play him?
No, it might have won them a game of footy, but...
Well, that's pretty good vindication.
No, but a round 2 win is not what St Kilda are after. St Kilda are after building a culture and a team that are going to win them a flag. That's what every team should be after. So every decision you make should be down that path. So I'm not having a crack at Roo or Kingy or even Grant Thomas or anyone that might have an opinion around that standard, because this is the reality.
Yeah.
You need to make decisions around standards and behaviours.
Yes, but
But you also need to balance it up with all the information you have at your disposal. So say St Kilda had a young forward crummer, pressure player, finisher, who was ready to go, then that might be a time to make a stand.
But maybe, and I'm not having a crack at them either, because I've said the same thing about players in the past as well. And that's what we're paid to do. But maybe Brett Ratten looks at it and goes, you know what? I don't need to shake the fabric, as Kingy said.
Correct.
I don't need to shake the fabric of this club after one game, albeit a poor game. Maybe he's got more confidence in the fabric.
No, but I think there is arguments on both sides. But even now, I think that Brett Ratten has had the strength to support his player. I mean, it's not as if he's listening. Oh, geez, they're saying I should drop him. I'm going to drop him. No, coaches don't think like that. They're thinking from the information that they have. And coaching panels, not just senior coaching panels and match committees are thinking this way.
Yep.
How are we going to build the best side?
Yep.
How are we going to continue to build our capacity on field?
Yep.
And what are the standards and behaviours? If there's something there, is it something we can give him a clip on, ask him to do better, and then allow him to do
got a clip. He got a clip. That's
because
clear.
If you want perfect players, you're not going to have anyone on the list anymore. You don't have anyone to play.
No.
So,
and he may have a greater confidence in his setup than those on the outside that were calling for the drastic play.
Well, it was vindicated in the short term, but I can understand the other side. But I'm having a bit each way there, but the things are grey. Number 5, efficiency inside 50 is the difference in 2022 to this point. So your capacity to go into your forward 50 and score at a high rate has proven the difference. So Carlton, Sydney and Brisbane won their respective games this weekend with less scoring shots and less inside 50s than their opposition.
Mm-hmm.
Hawthorn, Melbourne, North Melbourne and Richmond won their games against their opposition by losing the inside 50 count. They had more scoring shots, but they lost the inside 50 count, so less access to their scoring zones. That's 7 out of 9 teams that have lost the territory battle.
So the efficiency,
but they've been more effective and efficient going inside their
which
own.
includes one critical aspect of football. Goal
skills?
Kicking.
Yeah.
Hold it. We'll take a break and come back. So there's the 5. The buck stops. Your comments, your thoughts. Billy, we'll get to you in a moment after it. So the first one, the Hawks and where it can take them. The second one was about the taggers and the coolers. The third one, of course, Patrick Cripps, unstoppable. The Jack Higgins situation was 4, and then your efficiency going inside 50 is 5. We're happy to take any more 1300 736 736 is the number.